Either some ex-Wisdom Tree employee has trolled us all, or Super 3D Noah's Ark, or Super Noah's Ark 3D, however you choose to pronounce it, really was the product of Wisdom Tree, the Color Dreams branch off known for making unlicensed Bible games for the NES, really did license the Wolfenstein 3D engine to produce an NES first-person shooter based on Clive Barker's Hellraiser movie, abandoning it after realizing the prototype cartridge for the NES would cost around $100 to make a profit, and after Doom hit. Not wanting to ruin the reputation of their Christian Games brand, they decided to take their already licensed Wolf 3D engine and make a first-person shooter based on Noah's Ark, first bringing it to the Super Nintendo and then later porting it to DOS. I've read multiple sources that seem to confirm that Super 3D Noah's Ark started as a game based on Hellraiser, so I'm going to take it as fact, even if deep down I still think it's an elaborate troll. I really don't believe anything I hear on the internet, but the sources say that's how the game started. Also, one of the long-held beliefs surrounding the game about id Software giving Wisdom Tree the Wolf 3D engine out of spite for censorship in the Super Nintendo version of Wolf 3D seems indeed to be a myth. I did read one article that said Noah's Ark directly copied all the maps of Wolf 3D, but when trying to find out how true that was, I found a really in-depth article about Super 3D Noah's Ark and the Super NES version of Wolf 3D on badgamehalloffame.com that, aside from being a super interesting read, I'll link the article in the description, it's actually a really good read if you're interested, answered the question on the levels for me. So I've never been able to get into Wolf 3D. While Doom is pretty easy to go back to and play, Wolf 3D, though incredibly important to gaming history, has never been able to draw me in like Doom does. I wasn't a PC gamer growing up, very few people I knew even owned computers, so I definitely wasn't able to experience Wolf 3D or Doom whenever they hit. For me, Wolf 3D's levels always just blended together and they all looked the same. I've never been able to get too far into the game. Suffice it to say, this means that I've never owned or wanted to own the Super NES version of Wolf 3D, which I was completely unaware of until now is actually a brand new campaign with new levels. It wasn't a port of the DOS original, it was more like an expansion pack. To answer the question about Super 3D Noah's Ark, the enemies and weapons are direct reskins of the same enemies and weapons in the Super NES version of Wolf. The levels, however, are not. From my understanding of the badgamehalloffame.com article, Wisdom Tree actually designed their own levels and enemy placements, even if the enemies and bosses and guns are just reskinned from Wolfenstein. So as I said, I don't own the Super NES version of Wolfenstein to confirm if the levels are actually different in Noah's Ark, but I can confirm that the levels are not identical to the original DOS version. All that being said, in playing Super 3D Noah's Ark, two things have happened. One, I've actually had a lot of fun playing this game. While it might be an infamous bad game, it's based on a sound formula, and the combat is fun, the level designs are manageable, some have mazes, but there are a lot of open areas in the game as well, and overall I've come to really enjoy this game. The second weird side effect of playing this game is, I've actually been able to get into Wolfenstein 3D style first-person shooters now. As backwards as it sounds, playing the supposedly awful Bible first-person shooter has given me a new appreciation of Wolfenstein 3D. It's actually made me want to play more Wolf 3D, and even Blake Stone, which I picked up recently because I had 73 cents left on my Steam wallet from a previous purchase, and found it on sale for 55 cents. Now that's some bargain shopping right there, if you ask me, despite being an infamous bad game. Noah's Ark, I'll just call it Noah's Ark from now on instead of the mouthful that is Super 3D Noah's Ark or Super Noah's Ark 3D, is actually fun. This Steam re-release was released in 2015 for the game's 20-year anniversary, and has been optimized to run and control great on a modern system. They've implemented WASD controls with mouse aiming. This actually plays better than the Steam version of Wolf 3D and Blake Stone thanks to the optimizations made for the game. So I broke one of my cardinal rules when writing this review. I watched another channel's video review of this game, normally out of fear of subconscious plagiarism and fear of seeing how much better someone else has covered the game, better than I could hope to do on my best day. I don't freshly read or watch any other reviews on a game that I am reviewing. However, the LGR review of this game has informed me that this Steam re-release is running off of a Wolf 3D source port called ECWolf. ECWolf. I hunted down ECWolf and now I have a better way to go back and experience the original Wolfenstein 3D. The Steam version is just Wolf in DOSBox, but ECWolf allows for WASD and modern display settings. It makes the whole game run a lot smoother on modern hardware. The gameplay in Noah's Ark is, well, it's Wolfenstein 3D. The levels are a mixture of mazes and open areas, filled with keys to unlock doors, tons of hidden areas to find, and hordes of enemies to dispatch. Noah, armed with his trusty slingshot and feed, puts the unruly animals to sleep, as opposed to killing them. It's a goofy way to cover up the violence of a game like Wolfenstein 3D, but it works. The levels are filled with hidden areas and even a hidden level to find if you look hard enough. In Wolfenstein fashion, Noah traverses each level, sleeping his enemies while collecting keys, ammo, life pickups, and even knapsacks, which expand his ammo carrying capacity. Occasionally, there will be Bible trivia pickups, where correctly answering Bible questions about the story of Noah will reward players with much needed extra ammo and life. This is probably the one time in your life where you wish you actually paid attention in Awana as a kid, or to VeggieTales, whichever, along with the normal assortment of weapons from the basic slingshot to the Super Feeder 5000. The game also reskinned the two new weapons of the Super Nintendo Wolfenstein 3D, with the Cantaloupe Feeder and the Watermelon Feeder, which have their own separate ammo to find throughout the maps. The gunplay in the game is basic but has its own intensity. It's definitely not as intense or refined as the gunplay in Doom, but it has its own unique feel and strategies to it. By the time I got to level 5-2, I found myself incredibly low on ammo, picking up just enough ammo from each felled enemy to take out the next enemy. Honestly, I deliberately put this game on the easiest difficulty to get the footage for this review, or at least I thought I did. However, this game gets incredibly hard in the later levels. I had more difficulty with this game than I did with my most recent playthrough of Quake 4 on the second from hardest difficulty, but I'm probably just bad at Wolf 3D era shooters. I did find myself saving after every room and reloading after dying very swiftly. In fact, anything less than 100% health can lead to being killed in 1 or 2 hits. 3 hits tops and Noah is toast. Suffice it to say, I had a rough time in the later levels. There is an extra life system in the game where dying in a level will expend a life and start you back at the beginning of that level with the basic slingshot and 8 rounds of ammo. I would just reload my mid-level saves instead. I was getting my butt handed to me in a children's shooter. And it turns out that I went back to check and I've realized that though I thought I was playing the game on super easy in order to get the footage, I was actually playing on some harder difficulty I don't remember selecting. So I started a new game at level 6 on super easy and I wasn't dying in 1 or 2 hits. So I really don't know what difficulty level I was actually playing on. Let's just say the game gets absurdly tedious at higher levels of difficulty with constant deaths and having to play cat and mouse games to lure enemies out a door to shoot them, just to pick up the ammo they drop to have enough ammo to take out the enemy behind them in order to pick up the ammo they drop to take out the enemy behind them, all while trying to avoid getting hit even once, let alone twice, for an instant death. Constant reloading saves and insta-deaths. Now that I am back to playing on an easier setting, I am back to having a fun time again. Difficulty is good in some games, but sometimes it can lead to tedious loading and reloading of saves. I can say this game is a lot more enjoyable on easier settings. Yeah, I know, but I don't care about bragging rights. I just find it amusing that here I was thinking I suck at life for not being able to beat a kid's shooter on the baby difficulty, only to find out I had it on a much higher difficulty than I thought. I mean, I'm still stuck on level 6-4 on that higher difficulty in a kid's shooter, but at least I know it wasn't just me being terrible at the game. I mean, I am still terrible at the game, just not as terrible as I thought. The graphics and music are upbeat. You can tell this game was meant to be played by children, and the end result is a happy shooter. Honestly, I like the audio and visual presentation in this game. There's kind of a happy, uplifting air about the whole game. It's a silly concept, but a lighthearted one. Its gameplay is as serious as Wolfenstein 3D, but with a childhood exuberance about it. This game is goofy, but it puts a smile on my face when I play it. If you like goofy, uplifting things, the game is worth the cheap asking price, even if you're not big on Wolf 3D. Overall, the game has a lot of levels, 6 different bosses to defeat, and is a pretty solid example of Wolfenstein 3D style first-person shooters. The bottom line, Wolfenstein 3D is a game I've always wanted to like more than I actually did. However, Super 3D Noah's Ark has helped me to adjust to the style of Wolf 3D, and despite its legacy of being a so-called bad game, it's actually a really fun game if you can get into it. I guess I could say your opinion of this game will be based on how you feel about Wolfenstein 3D, or other pre-Doom first-person shooters like it. If you're a fan of Wolf 3D, there's a good chance you will find enjoyment in Super 3D Noah's Ark. This game is indeed not a fecal matter load of fornication, it's just a weird game, but a fun and uplifting one at that. If you like strange niche titles, pick this game up. It's cheap, it's simple, it's fun, it's goofy, and it's worth playing.